today.
We're doing it.
We're live.
Yeah, in fact, it's probably live right now. It's catching us. But, it says on my screen setting up. Looks like it's redirecting to live page. So it looks like we are live. Hey, everybody. My name is Trevor Daly. I'm with MagMod. I am so excited to have Jennifer and Joe Mackey here with me.
Hi.
How's it going, guys?
Thanks so much for being here, guys. I love doing these How I Shot It's, and everybody knows that. They've seen me talk about this before. It's so much fun to be just inspired and learn. I've been a wedding photographer for a number of years, but I learn each and every single time I do these How I Shot It's. And just in our little pre-chat, we were talking about some of the images that we're going to discuss. I was like totally inspired by some of these images that we're going to talk about. So I'm excited to share them, and I'm excited to introduce you guys to the MagMod community. In fact, everybody already knows you probably because you guys are, in the community. And in fact, before I even let you guys talk, I just got to share one quick story. I was just our team here at MagMod, we go through all the images that everybody submits on Instagram, and I think we just approved like 20 of your photos to be posted on our MagMod Instagram feed. So I'm excited to share all those with the world as well. But thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
guys,
us.
man. Seriously.
Yeah. So before we go on, I'm going to let you guys tell everyone where you're based out of and how to find you on Instagram and your website and those things. And as you're doing that, I'm actually going to try to multitask and make sure that we are live in the community and that everybody can hear us and everything else. So if you guys are watching us live, give me a little thumbs up, or you can hear us. Everything's great. But in the meantime, you guys tell everyone where you're based out of.
We are based out of Asheville, North Carolina, but we travel a lot, so it's fun. And I guess.
Yeah, we've been there for like 5 years by way of Florida. Started off doing photography like a lot of people, sort of a side, like part-time side hustle. And then we moved there on like a whim, and we were like chasing the dream, and we are like, you know what, we're going to do this. We're going to be full-time photographers one day. And so 5 years later, that's what we're doing.
Now
so
we have 2 companies now. So
yeah. So we're actually in Colorado today shooting an elopement.
Yep.
So we're like, when you asked us to squeeze this in, we're like, can we? That'd be awesome. So yeah, we're stoked.
That's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you guys taking this time, from your vacation to actually do this with me. Like I said, we had gone through all these images and I saw so many. I'm like, we got to get these guys on. Like, their photos are phenomenal. And I want to, make sure everybody knows about them. And so I appreciate you guys. Literally within a couple days notice, you guys were like, let's do it. Let's get on here and have some fun. So I didn't even know that you guys were on vacation. I super appreciate you guys taking this time to be with us. It looks like we already have quite a few people watching. It looks like everybody's saying that they can hear us and see us and everything else. So we're good there. Now I got to say really quickly before we jump into some of these photos, Jennifer, I saw your video on your website, and it looks like you actually taught photography. Is that right? You were a teacher, like in high school?
Yes, I got my art degree and I didn't know what to do with it. So I became a high school teacher, and I taught art and photography to high school kids. My last 2 years was online photography courses. And yeah, that's kind of what segued me into the actual field. But yeah, let's just say it's a lot more fun to shoot weddings.
That's awesome.
Like,
what? Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, I got lucky because like
I taught him everything.
She taught me everything I know. Like, I know some people have to kind of grind it out and intern and second shoot for years, but she just like, hey, here's what to do. Here's how we're gonna do it. Don't mess it up.
Hey, you know what, Joe? She saw you as cheap labor. She's like, computer, I don't have to pay for it. No, that's awesome, you guys. One thing I will say, Jennifer, that I have really enjoyed is, and I don't know if you've gotten a chance to do this since leaving the teaching profession, but I've had high schools ask me to go in and talk to high school students. Yep. And I love going in for a day. I can't imagine being there every day. But I love going in for the day and spending, a few hours talking to these high schools and giving them kind of a day in the life of a photographer. And even I think what's fun is actually telling them, like, you can make money doing this.
Yes.
Like, it can be a career, because I think so many students just think, starving artist, I'm just doing this for my elective credit or whatever else. But when you can actually show them you can make an income, it's kind of exciting to see their mind kind of click, like, wow, I can do something with this. So
I wish I would have had someone like you do that for us, because like I think when you were in college, she always tells this story like about
they tell you pretty much you're gonna fail as an artist. You're going to be a starving artist, you can't make it. So it is cool to be able to say, you know what, we did make it. So
and I wasn't an artist by trade, but like even that was my mindset. Like, I remember a friend asked me one day, why don't you just do photography full time? You love it so much. I'm like, you can't do that. And then I was like, oh, you can. Just like a mindset shift, like
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys are doing well. And I got to ask one last question before we jump into the images. How's everything going during this pandemic? Have you guys been able to get through it? Is our shoot starting to roll back in?
We are thankfully uberly busy right now. We're pretty backed up on editing.
Yes.
But we rescheduled 41 weddings from COVID. Some of them rescheduled to the fall, and then a lot of them rescheduled to next year. 2021 is looking really good. So,
Nice.
but there is hope.
Yeah.
I'm praying it continues to go on the upward trend. But we're doing
Good.
okay. It was a rough for a couple months, but
we
we're
had,
doing
I
great.
think the biggest thing this year, and I'm sure a lot of businesses have been going through it, is just being flexible.
Yes.
Kind of meeting our clients where they're at. Like we had to modify umpteen contracts for people that wanted to have,
Downsizing.
they were going to have an all-day wedding with 200 people, and then they decided to elope.
Yeah.
So we just, we had to figure that out, figure out what that would look like, and just make it happen. So being flexible this year has been helpful.
Yeah.
That's great advice, and it's certainly important to do. Absolutely. So guys, with that, let's jump into this. You know what? Actually, I gotta have one more thing. Can you guys just show everyone the incredible view that you're looking at?
Yeah, so we're in Colorado, guys, right now at an Airbnb. It'll hopefully
Stay this way.
That.
Yeah. So that is our view right now as we're talking to you.
That's amazing.
One day
Amazing.
it'd be cool to live in a place like this, but until then we'll keep shooting a lot.
Oh, we live in the mountains.
I know.
I think Asheville's pretty nice though, right? Isn't it?
Yeah,
we
have
have
mountains out there. So.
Yeah, we have a variety of landscapes. It's gorgeous. So
Yeah, but Colorado is beautiful for sure. Right on, guys. So let's jump right into this. I was just looking to see if there's any questions that came up. Austin had a question about flashes, but maybe when we talk about this first image, maybe you guys can even just kind of mention what kind of gear you use on your shoots. But let's jump right into this first image. Let me go pull this up. Man, our audience is in for a treat. I love all these photos. So does it look okay on your screen, guys?
yes.
Awesome. So tell us about this image and how you shot it.
All right, so I shot this image actually last week. We had a hurricane come through North Carolina during a wedding, and this was, so what we did is it's super foggy. We're actually supposed to have these epic cliff views, but we decided to go in the woods to kind of create a whimsical, I don't know, magical feel. So we thought, let's play with the fog. So we actually use Godoxes most of the time for our OCF work. Sometimes we use our Canons. And this one was a Godox, and we used a warming gel. We used a quarter CTO or half CTO.
It was a half CTO.
Half CTO.
I'm the flash guy.
Yeah, sorry. He put the flash back there, and he crouched down for me. And then we used a sphere. And what it did is it just created this magical glow around them. It lit up the fog, and it was honestly an experiment, because sometimes if it's too foggy, it's gonna look like crap. But it actually ended up being amazing. So it was really fun to play with that and get that look.
I love that. You know what I love is when there's that humidity or mist in the air, and oftentimes you don't even see it with the blind eye, but these are the types of photos that when you shoot it and you turn around and you show the clients, they just start freaking out.
They did.
You make things come alive that they didn't even know existed, right? So
it's something we've had to adapt to, because we live in the mountains, so most of the stuff's at elevation that we do. Like most of the cool shoots we get to do are at 4,000 to 6,000 feet. So it could be blue skies in town, and then you get outside and it's foggy because you're in the clouds. So fog can kind of be cool when it's light, because it's sort of a natural smoke bomb, if you will. You can light it up and make it colorful. So
yeah,
a little mood.
No, that's awesome. In fact, you mentioned being in the clouds. In just a minute, we're going to show you guys some of these images where they're up, quite high up along the mountains and stuff. And so I can't wait to show everyone that. I did want to ask, so you said you half CTO to kind of give it that warmth, and you had a sphere on it to kind of make that light kind of get diffused and go out in all different directions there. Did you have any kind of flash in front then, or was it just natural light in front?
Natural light. I actually underexposed this image a little bit. It was still pretty daylight. It was around golden hour, but it was still pretty, bright to where I underexposed it a couple stops to be able to get this. But I did, in Lightroom, I did pull up the exposure a little bit on them just so they didn't look like a full silhouette.
Nice. Yeah, I love the way you did it there. And then you had mentioned, it's funny, you say it actually different than I do. You said Godox, I say Godox. So I apologize.
Sorry, Godox.
I think the way you say it is probably right, but that, I just didn't want you to be like, wait, what? That flash, is it the 8200 or is it the V860? Is it the speedlight looking one or is it
It's the 200.
8200.
Yeah, we like it for the power, especially when we get in those situations where something's strongly backlit and we can overpower the sun. We haven't gotten to the 600s yet, but
Yeah.
we usually find that works, especially when we use the box and the two together. It works well.
Yeah, you know, and that was one of the questions that Austin had was what kind of flash, and I will have to say that I use those as well. That's my favorite. There's other flashes out there that are, you know, more powerful, but it's like it gets to the point for me, it's all about portability. Like I want to make something. In fact, that's what I like about MagMod as well, is the portability. But I want to have something I can just kind of throw in my bag, and I don't have to carry something, you know, separate or along with me or whatever.
All that craziness.
And when we hike a lot for our shoots and our sessions. Like we actually had a hike to this spot. It can be cumbersome to carry all that stuff. So it's nice to have that portability.
Especially on like wet green rocks like this. I think the groom literally caught himself falling like 3 times. And I was like, dude, I need to help you. Like, the bride was barefoot. She was like, good to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's so pretty though. And I love how with one flash, with MagSphere and the gel, you were able to make this kind of this very dreamy environment. It's so pretty, and it beautiful, beautiful shot. Absolutely love it. I do want to ask now, when you guys go on these shoots, do you guys tend to compete with each other? Like Joe, are you like, okay, I'll put the flash here. Okay, now it's my turn. Now I get to try to do something, or you guys?
Yeah.
Yes, that's like that.
There's some days I'd say we have a little more friendly competition than others. And then like all wedding photographers, there's some days where you have 5 minutes. And so we're already scheming like hours in advance where we're like, all right, you do OCF, I'll do natural light. Let's just make it work. But on this day, yeah, you actually nailed it. I had done a shot earlier in the day with a similar effect, but in between these 2 iron gates. And I didn't use a warming gel. I just wanted to kind of keep it more natural looking. And Jenny was like, oh my God, that's so good. And I guess she had it in the back of her mind to try it again. And I was totally like, oh, this needs to be the sneak peek. Yours is better. So definitely we'll go at it sometimes. But I think it makes us better, which is cool. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It does, when you have a little friendly competition going on, it does make you kind of push to be better, right? So that's awesome.
I always tell her hers better. One funny thing, we find like brides usually love my photos and grooms usually love her photos. We haven't figured that out yet.
Weird.
We're not
That's funny. That's awesome. Super cool. Well, we talked a little bit about you guys going up into, you know, the like I said, the clouds and hiking and finding these incredible locations. And I think what is fun about that is that you're actually basically, you're making the shoot an experience. It's not just going to the local park, but you're actually taking these people to places where it's like, you got to see this place, and then we're going to create some epic images. And I want to show this one. I mean, this image, like this looks like one of those places that people travel, you know, from all over the world to go visit. So tell me about this shot here.
Yeah.
So this is actually it was an anniversary session for a couple. And we took them, the first time we took them here, we never had been. So we were on the adventure with them. We knew of the spot. We just said, let's just try it. And they were very open to it. So we hiked about 40 minutes to get to the spot. And it was
gear and all. Yeah.
Yes. And usually this spot's very crowded. And we got lucky this day and nobody was up there, so we took advantage of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's fun because we live in a place in Asheville, or Western North Carolina, as you would call it, where we have the Appalachian Mountain Range. So a lot of these beautiful places are around us, and we get pretty spoiled. But so we're always trying to look for different ways to kind of make a couple stand out or make a landscape look different. And like, especially with MagMod, we're not having to carry a bulky box everywhere all the time. Like, it's made shots like this a lot easier for us because we want to look a little different, because it's a beautiful enough area where you can be a natural light photographer and make a great living. But how can we stand out from the crowd has always been sort of our mentality with some of these shots.
You know what makes this one beautiful though? Because you're right, you could have shot this natural light and I'm sure it would have looked fine. But I think what I love about this is that light on them just really draws your attention right to them. And the other thing is, by putting a flash on them, you're able to bring that sky out too. And that sky is just beautiful. And without that, if it was natural light, you just wouldn't have that. So that's what, like you said, it's like having that arrow in your quiver to pull out and use it. It really separates you or differentiates you from the rest of the crowd. So I love that. Now I got to ask then, I mean, shooting on a location like this is always difficult because it's like, where do you put your stands and how do you put it and what modifiers do you use? And so how did you like this? What did you use the light on?
So
I was hand holding a 8200 again. I use the Sphere grid combo. I know sometimes people are like, why would you do that? Like that seems kind of counterintuitive. Like the grid focuses the light, the Sphere spreads it. It kind of gives you this beautiful happy medium. In my mind, it didn't make sense at first, but being on the MagMod community, the Facebook group, and seeing the results people were getting with it, we started trying it. And we tried it actually first with a MagSphere, and it lit up the entire rock, and it was just too much.
Yeah.
And we tried the grid, and it wasn't hitting their feet. And so we were like, all right, let's do the happy medium. So I wish we got it right the first time all the time, but a lot of experimentation. So I was just outside the frame. Jenny, I think, was shooting probably 24 millimeters and just cropped in. So
I love that. And, you know, I appreciate you mentioning that about the MagSphere, MagGrid, because it is like the most popular combo. You know, in the MagMod community, people talk about it all the time. And you're right, that question comes up. It's like, well, why would you put a grid on it where it's going to focus the light and then a sphere that it kind of kicks it out, omnidirectional? But the point is so that that light passes through the grid and then it hits the front of the sphere. And I like to say it kind of creates a like a spotlight with like a soft transition on the edges, you know, where it doesn't go really harsh from dark to light, or excuse me, light to dark, but it kind of just fades off. And you can see that really well in this photograph, how the couple's lit, but then you just have this really nice transition from light to dark on the rocks. So super pretty.
Yeah, that's the Sphere grids actually become for like more traditional wedding shots, like our like detail shots of tables. That's like my go-to now, because like the spheres are nice, but sometimes they spread and light up the whole area. So it helps us keep sort of that ambient light and that mood of like whatever it is.
Oh, the front door.
It's a great idea. Oh, somebody's at my front door apparently.
Amazon Prime Day, man.
Yeah. You know what? I think you're probably right. That is an Amazon deal. Right on. So I love this shot. And like I said, in fact, it's funny. Brian here says, I'd probably die from a heart attack up there on that cliff. We got Austin, OMG. I got a number of people tuning in. So let's, taking this same concept, this MagSphere, MagGrid, I imagine there's times where maybe you need to use something bigger, because I've shot along cliffs like this, and sometimes it's impossible to try to get a light on them. And I want to take you guys to this image here, because this is, again, one of those images where you're like right along what looks like a cliff and these beautiful mountain ranges. And how the heck did you get light on the couple?
Yeah. So
I wish we were that good at Photoshop,
I know, right?
but
we didn't have enough room, honestly, to be on the cliff for that couple. That cliff, actually, to get out to it, it's a very thin walkway, like right behind them. So we had to shoot from across the way and zoom in a little bit. But we used
the 16 mil. We kind of wanted sort of that landscape shot effect, that environmental portrait. And then we used the Magbeam, and we actually, you know, I think it's probably the least utilized tool we have, but when we need it, it's like,
it's awesome.
It's perfect for shots like this, because where I'm holding the light on them is probably, you know, right in front of them. Like if they're 12 o'clock, I was 6 o'clock.
Okay.
We're probably 30 yards away from them. So, I mean, it's just, it does what it's supposed to do. It's so
awesome.
cool. Yeah. It makes our job easier, because it wouldn't be safe for me to be out there with them.
And I don't have anywhere to put a stand with a flash.
Yeah.
So.
And it can be windy at locations too. So.
Yeah. So Jennifer was shooting it, and you were standing right close to her with the Magbeam. Is that right?
Yep.
That's awesome. I love that. And it looks like you even have some of that light, kind of a cross light from the sun that's kind of rim lighting them. And I mean, it's so pretty, you guys. You know what I think is unique about your photographs that I really enjoy, and the reason I love looking at them, is because you have this great balance of ambient and flash. You're not overpowering them with light and making everything dark. You have this great mix. When you shoot this, so Jennifer, like when you shot this, did you first kind of take like a natural light shot and make sure that your ambient looks good, and then just dial in your flash to complement that?
Yes, so that's usually how we work with most of our shots, is we try to dial in ambient first without having a flash on at all. And our goal is to not black out, because the whole reason of taking these shots is not just the beautiful sunset, but the actual scenery. So if we black it all out, you're not gonna be able to tell where they're at. So after that, then what I'll do is pull in the flash. And usually, you know, I'll adjust from there if I need to dial it up or dial it down. And then with obviously the beam, it's a little bit of, you know, pinpointing exactly, like turn it a little bit. There we go.
Yeah, and it's being the person who aims it. It can be frustrating, because she'll be like, no, to the left, and you'll move it like barely to the left, and it'll be like 10 yards that way. So.
Yeah, it's truly like a beam of light. It's funny, typically when I use the beam, I'll put it on a light stand. Now you had mentioned in an environment like this, it's very difficult to put a light stand, but I'll typically try to put it on a light stand just so that then I'll just go up and I'll just barely move it just a little bit. Cause you're right. It's I don't know. It's like firing a laser beam. It's like you just move it just a little bit and it's gonna change. So
Mhm.
uh, one other question real quickly before we move on to the next image is I love how you guys crop this kind of more, uh, landscape, more rectangular, I guess you could say. Was that something purposely? I mean, did you guys kind of plan that? Because I love it.
Yeah, we actually, right below that is where we stood in some rocks, but there was some stuff there and people there, so we kind of cropped up a little bit to kind of get rid of that. But it just helps too. Like I felt like the composition worked for it because too I didn't want the darkness to overtake the whole photo. I like the sky so much to where it's almost half and half versus 3/4. I mean 2/3 the darkness and then the light. So that's
You get this kind of panel crop to it. It makes it even draw more attention kind of to, again, my eyes immediately go to them, then it jumps over to the sun, then it kind of goes across the mountain range. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. So
Sometimes we'll do, and I'm sure some people do this, like we'll do like a couple of different crops,
Yes.
just so if the couple prefers like a full photo, or if like, hey, we could use this one on social media as like our hero image on like a background or something. So we always try to keep that in mind too, like for marketing purposes, like, hey, let's shoot it full and we can always crop in later if we need to.
yeah, no, I think that's a great tip. I love that. So guys, let's talk about this next image where we have some groomsmen, and this is one I've seen in the community a few times from different people, and I love it every single time because I think again it's one of those shots where it's like anybody can pull this off. Just a little. Joe and Jennifer are gonna tell you how they did it here in just a second. But with just a little bit of practice, they can pull it off, and then it's one of those again those shots where you turn around, and you show the groom, and he's just like, what? It's like on him, but he's got his his guys with him, like his squad or whatever, right? And in fact, I think I probably shouldn't use squad for groomsmen. That's probably more of a bridal word, but
Brad Squad. Right?
exactly. But tell us how you shot this one here.
So I shot this one in, it was pretty hard lit, sunny day. They weren't like directly lit by the sun. It was kind of coming in from the side, but I had this one in mind just because the groom was a little bit taller than most of his groomsmen. And, I've seen this shot in the community before, and I've actually done it before, but it's one of those things where like practice makes perfect. And, he had the blue suit and just had a lot of presence. And I was like, if I can get low, put him in this blue sky, it's just I think it'll look epic. And so we had the MagGrid on an 8200 full power, and it was still a little underexposed. I still had to dodge and burn a little bit. But I mean, it was probably 2 feet from his face. And then I used a tripod so that I could composite it out later. And thankfully the clouds weren't moving too fast, so it masked out pretty quick. Sometimes that's one of the struggles of masking out if there's clouds. Yeah. But it worked out great. And one thing that somebody pointed out to me I wasn't aware of was like the converging cloud to him, and then they kind of converge out.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
I was like, I was in such a hurry and like, all right, I gotta get this shot, that I was like, oh, that is cool. So it worked out.
And I love that you mentioned that as well, because that is something that I did catch my attention with it, that whole clean space, right behind him, and you got I love that, the lines coming towards him and stuff. Such a cool shot. So again, just for those watching, you basically had your flash just a couple feet from him to the left. He's looking right at it. Probably a good thing that he's wearing sunglasses, because
yes.
I'm probably pretty bright. In fact, it's funny. I've had couples where if I have my light really close to him and I am doing something like this, I'll actually tell them, like, I can't even see your eyes, so just close your eyes. Like, you're gonna get a big flash in your eyes, so just close them. Don't even worry about it. So you had the flash really close, and then you shot a plate image, you shot the image of them, and then you just took the flash out like in Photoshop. Is that right?
Yeah, and it was funny. The groomsmen sometimes, like working with a bridal party, they can be your best friend. They'll have cool ideas, and they were actually the ones that suggested to go get his sunglasses. They were like, "Dude, get the sunglasses. They look cool. You got to get a shot in your sunglasses." So I was like, "I think this is the one. We should do this shot now," because we had done some traditional ones before this, just them smiling at the camera, right over left, and I wanted to do something fun, so switched it up a little bit.
That's cool. I love that. Great photo. Super cool. And by the way, guys, if you have any questions as you're watching here, feel free to throw them in the comments. It's funny, I'm looking over here as if I'm talking to everybody watching on my phone. But if you have comments, feel free to put them in there. Any questions? Likewise, if you're watching this on YouTube later, feel free to throw those comments in there, those questions. If it's something that I see that we can get over to Joe and Jennifer, I'm sure they'd be happy to go check it out and answer there as well. So we hope that when we do these episodes that you guys all get an opportunity to learn from some of the best out there. And so this is your chance to ask questions and feel free to do that. So let's go on. Let's see. So I think we covered this one. I guess the only other question then was, it's just one flash. Is that right? 180, 200?
For this one, yeah. I actually, because I was, like I said, he was still a touch underexposed. I was looking for my other grid, but for some reason I had lost it. So I was like, you know what, let me just, I'll do a little bit in editing. But I was looking for a second one so I could put it on the mag ring, but yeah, it didn't happen.
No, but it worked out really, really nice though. That's awesome. All right. So, and then you think probably what, like F11 or F16, something like that?
I forget exactly off the top of my head. I don't have Lightroom in front of me, but it was definitely high. I didn't want to do high speed sync just because I didn't want to lose too much power. Especially because I was using the 16 to 35 f4. I find if you use like a small aperture, like an f4 or 5 or 6, and you do high speed sync, you just lose all flash power. So it was 1/200th, and I think it was around f9 or 10, somewhere up there. So.
I'm the same way. I would rather push my aperture than do high speed typically, but right on. Super, super nice photo. So you guys have, I know you have a shoot coming up, and I don't want to make you late for it. Do you have time to talk about maybe 2 more images?
Sure.
Totally.
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. So this one here, gosh, another just absolutely stunning, beautiful image. Let me just actually, before we even start, is that sky for real?
Yep.
Yes.
That was legit.
You guys are, like all these photos, you guys are so good at capturing the sky and just making it just look so pretty. So tell us about this one.
So this is obviously a bridal of this girl. This is actually the same bride in the first image. Her wedding day was not as pretty, but she still got some epic stuff. So what I did is underexposed to get that sky in there. I was around like f5, 6. I didn't want to underexpose too much because I still wanted that ambient, but it was cool because I got that little sun flare going. Yeah. But then what we used is Joe held a mag box out on the outside here to the left. So that way we could get that nice, soft light, that good spread. And it doesn't have a lot of drop off. Obviously on the rocks, you can see it's not like, just boom, there's darkness. Yeah. And we also used the feathering technique. So we tilted the box a little bit up so that way it wouldn't have as much spill on the rocks or, be so dramatic.
Yeah.
So nice.
We use the focus diffuser as well in the mag box to kind of use that. The location it looks really remote. It's actually not too hard to get to here because it's part of this actual venue's like backyard space, which is insane. But for a lot of bridal sessions or maternity, or if we go to a cool location that doesn't require a lot of hiking, we love our mag box just because that light quality is great and we don't have to hike 40 minutes with it. It's be a little heavier, but that light quality is great. So yeah,
that's awesome. So now, was this shot with the 1635 as well, do you think?
I think I shot this with my 24 to 70 at the time. We now switched over actually to the R6 mirrorless, so now we have the 28 to 70, but this was with my Mark IV 24 to 70.
That's like her go-to. She loves.
Yeah, I love that 24 to 70, but I am now in love with the 28 to 70. Yeah. So
that's awesome. That 2870 is huge.
It's, okay, yeah. I am dying on a wedding day when I have a speed light and then I have a mag bounce and then I have my body and then I have the lens. I am like, okay.
I used it for one wedding and I was like, I'm not Jennifer Mackey, so I can't handle it. No, I did get the 50, the RF50, which I do love a lot, and it kind of gave me that, right in the middle there. But that 2870 is an amazing lens. So
it's awesome.
Right on, you guys. Well, it's such a pretty image. The only other thing I was going to ask about this one is I love the way your bride is positioned, where you're showing off kind of the back of the dress, but then you turned her toward the light. Is this something you do a lot as well? Do you tend to kind of, especially to show off that dress? I don't know. I guess I'm not even sure what my question is. I just really love the way you turned her towards that light.
I know in a lot of our like flash education stuff, they're big on like light direction, and that can make a huge difference in like shadow fall off and the face. And does this look more dramatic? Does it look softer light? All that stuff. And so with this one, we actually started off more to the camera left, and it looked a bit too dramatic. So Jenny actually brought me on like that 30 to 45 degree to kind of get some of that light spill on sort of her backside there.
The sun lit some of it, you can see, but yeah, it was nice to have that. And just to have, it depends on the dress and the bride, and too, I'm not gonna lie, body types. Certain people, it's harder to pose certain ways, just because of flexibility even.
Or the dress.
Yeah, or the dress won't let them move. But this one, I just thought it would be nice to highlight a little bit of the back, but still getting, that front view of her face turning to the side.
Yeah, she had done, I forget what they call it, but it's like the acrobatics where they do like they climb up like the sheets. Or something. Oh man,
yeah.
Anyway, aerials, yes.
Yeah.
So she, she had talked a little bit about her back, and her mom was there, and she was like, "Oh yeah, she's so muscular and this that." And so we're like, "All right, cool. Let's work a little bit of that side angle in." So she appreciated it.
And I love how that sun is just illuminating just a little bit of rim light on her shoulders and things like that. It's so pretty. And the interesting thing too is even though your light's coming from the side, you still got her kind of lit on the short side of the face. Or in other words, you're shooting on the short side of the face there. And so really, that's something that's always, what's the word?
Flattering.
Flattering. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Flattering for brides. So love it. So good.
Thanks.
All right, guys, let's do one last one here. And this one, it's funny. When I saw this image, the first thought in my mind was, wait, it's flash. We got to do an image with flash. And I thought this is natural light, or at least at first that was my instinct. And in the moment, as I kept looking at it, it was like, oh, wait, look at how they pop right there. Oh my, look at, there's motion going on. Like all this stuff just started coming together. So tell me about this photograph here and how you guys shot this.
So I'm kind of I guess like I've become like sort of a motion junkie in some of my photos. Like I love incorporating that. And so the venue is actually right behind us from shooting this. And I saw this warehouse earlier in the day, and I was like, if we can incorporate this during golden hour photos, that'd be great. And so traffic was actually going by like 20, 30 miles an hour because it was downtown. And so I was like, I like that concept of like getting the blur and focusing on the couple. And anyways, I wanted to make them pop a little bit because the wall was white and I didn't want to lose the bride because of her dress. And so I just thought it would give it the image a little bit of oomph. So we didn't want to make it so dramatic that you lost the detail on the wall on the street, but we also wanted to give them a little bit of pop. So that was kind of our mindset there. We definitely shot it on a tripod.
Yes.
And we did composite it so that we masked out Jenny because she was holding the flash about 4 feet in front of the couple. It was
a sphere.
MagSphere on 8200. And then we masked in one of the cars so that they were framed by 2 cars because one shot had one car, one shot had the other. And then the tripod let us just do that seamlessly.
Nice. Now you've mentioned tripod a few times. Do you use a tripod quite a bit when you're out working?
We do. Honestly, I'll carry it with me all the time just in case. I might use it like one every 4 or 5 shoots or every couple of weddings, but it's nice to have it when like you need it because it makes
for compositing photos. Like sometimes you just know it's gonna be so hard to, if I want to try to like just clone myself out or something, it would be so hard. So to be able to composite, it makes your life so much easier.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it used to intimidate me. And then just through continued education, I've seen people do it. And I was like, oh my God, they just removed the flash in like 10 seconds. And I'm like,
why haven't I done this all along?
I've been like outsourcing and paying $10 an image to get it out. You know what I mean? So I'm like, let's save some money.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Is there a certain tripod that you have found that you like the most?
I love it a lot because
He's lost like 5 tripods. This boy leaves tripods everywhere. So we have to buy new ones all the time.
Pro tip, don't set your tripod down.
Yeah, and buy cheap ones if you're like him.
The one we buy is
it's like $100.
It's like $110. It's Sunpack or Sunpark. Anyways, it's metal.
Small.
It's small. It's compact. So when we go on a hike somewhere or we're like going through a town like this, I'm not carrying like a big tripod with me because we already got flashes and camera gear.
Yeah, and if we bring the box with us or something, it'd be like.
So I usually just fold it up and then I hook it on my camera bag and I roll, which that's what gets me. Sometimes the knobs will roll off of it because I'm just rubbing up against me, but
Yeah.
great, and it's sturdy. We've used it on windy days and like, we'll hold it down and it's been solid. We've used it at the beach, like in the water, and it's been good.
Well, and it sounds like, being that you have gone through so many of them, it sounds like you almost want to keep it kind of a good value so that it can be almost disposable. Where
yeah,
it's like
$500 tripod, I probably wouldn't have put it down so much.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and the fact that, if something happens to a $500 tripod, you're like, oh, it's like a $2,000 lens. You go, oh. But then if something happens to an inexpensive lens, a $100 lens or whatever.
I ask another one.
Nifty 50.
Yeah, exactly. The nifty 50 type thing. Yeah. And it's like, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt that bad. So,
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, you guys. It's funny. I used to take a Bluetooth speaker with me to every wedding. I actually had a spot in my camera bag. Sorry, apparently Amazon's back and my dog's going crazy. But I had a spot in my camera bag and I would always bring a little Bluetooth speaker with me. And then basically I would leave them in bridal rooms. I would pull them out when there wasn't any music and like I wanted to kind of create a little bit of a party atmosphere so people would be having fun.
Yes.
So I'd always put it out and hook their phones to it. And I started leaving them all the time at weddings. And after about losing like 4 of them, just, completely losing them, I stopped doing that because I was just like, hey, these are expensive. It was like $150 speakers every time. So
yeah. That would be something he would do.
Yeah, and it's like you can't put that on your insurance because it's not expensive enough after your deductible. You're just out, $150. It's like, damn.
Yeah. Right on. Well, guys, I love this shot as well. So you said this was basically you just went out during that sunset time. Is that right?
There wasn't,
it was kind of just overcast that day.
Yeah, it wasn't much of a sunset. So we're in the middle of a city, so it's not like where we were going to get a great sunset anyways. Yeah. So we just said, let's use the architecture. Let's do some creative shots.
Yeah.
Because we don't always get to do that on a wedding day. Yeah,
and their venue was very industrial too. Like it was inside, like brick walls, exposed beams, like really cool. So just going outside to do something a little different. But yeah, anytime we can incorporate motion or composition into it, we love it.
That's awesome. So cool, you guys. Well, we looked at a lot of awesome images, and I told everyone from the beginning, I was stoked to show them this. I was excited to go through these images and just share some of these really cool locations that you guys got to shoot at. And I love how I didn't really keep track, but I felt like we talked about a lot of different modifiers. I felt like you guys talked about the MagSphere, the MagGrid, the Magbeam, the MagBox. Like you guys kind of have a variety of different tools. Is there one in particular that is kind of been your go-to, your favorite? If you had to toss all your modifiers out, which one would you keep? I guess maybe is the question.
Probably
the sphere.
The sphere.
Yeah, it's just it's versatile, and we use it for a lot of the reception for at weddings. We use it for portraits all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an all-around great tool to soften the light and to spread it. So it's just we can use it all the time.
Yeah, and I think it was funny because I was a little skeptical at first, like switching from one to the other, because we used to use a smaller softbox and we'd use 2 on the dance floor, and then people kept knocking them over because they're big and they take up room, but they looked good. And so we got 2 spheres. And I was like, I don't know. We had been using them for engagements. So I was like, I don't know if I want to switch for receptions. I don't want to change the look. And I just took Jenny out one day and used the exact same settings.
With a softbox and a sphere.
Yeah. And to me, other than like barely noticeable shadow fall off, it looked the same to me for all intents and purposes. For our style.
Yeah.
If you're doing like an up close portrait or something, it might be a little different, but we do a lot of environmental and a lot of dance floor stuff with the sphere, so we love it.
That's cool. It's definitely one of the easiest and most portable. I always love the sphere because you can just kind of throw it in your pocket or squish it in a bag somewhere and you just put it out and ready to go. So that's cool. And I love hearing that you guys are actually doing those like tests and stuff, because it's so true. Sometimes we put ourselves through all this extra work and then we try something, like you said, in the MagSphere, and you're like, you know what? Like, why are we doing all this extra stuff when we could just make it very simple? Like I think sometimes we actually try to put on a show a little bit for our clients. Like we got to use all these big things. And then you're like, you know what, let's stop worrying about looking good and actually just creating awesome images, which you guys are obviously super good at. So you guys, it's been fun. Before I let you go, let's tell everyone again where to find you. Tell everyone your Instagram.
So we're on Instagram, JCM Photography Asheville.
Yeah.
And then on Facebook, we're under
JCM
Photography
dash
Asheville. And then our website's yourjcmphotography.com, just because somebody already had the JCM Photography.
Yeah.
So
we'll make sure we can link it up here, and we'll also put it, if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll make sure it's in the caption, so be sure to check that out there. Awesome. Well, you guys, this has been a ton of fun. I've really enjoyed chatting with you and getting to know you guys better. Like I said, I'm excited. If you're getting to know Jennifer and Joe for the first time, you're going to see a ton of their work because, like I said in the beginning, I think we approved, like 20 images for the MagMod Instagram feed.
Thank you guys. And if anybody's out there in the community, like we learn a ton from just being on the groups and on the Facebook pages. Like we're constantly inspired. So like, if anybody wants to reach out and be like, hey, how'd you do that?
Yeah, we're
like,
happy.
Hit us up.
We love
because people have helped us too.
People. Yeah.
I watched one of the first ones you did with like, I think Seth and Beth photography. And I was like, oh, that's how they do that shot. We've been able to incorporate that into our own work. So like, just being able to get back. Yeah.
I love that. You guys are awesome. That's what I love about the MagMod community is it just feels like everybody's willing to pitch in and help each other out. And I just love that you guys are extending that out there. And so, yeah, so be sure to go follow them. Their work is amazing. And like I said, you'll see a bunch of it on Instagram here. But thank you guys. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Yeah, dude. Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing shoot this evening. And I look forward to seeing the photos from it.
Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
So, hey, everyone, thank you again for joining us for another How I Shot It. Again, if you are catching this for the first time, be sure to join us in the MagMod community. Just search MagMod community on Facebook. It's what Joe was just talking about. So be sure to check it out there, and you can post photos and share and inspire other people. And then, of course, each and every week we do these. And if you know somebody that you think would be an awesome guest for How I Shot It, that has a portfolio that we can share, definitely reach out to me. I'd love to learn more about them. Thank you again, Jennifer and Joe. You rocked it. You guys go enjoy the rest of your vacation. Have an amazing tonight, and we'll catch you guys later. All right.
Bye.
Hey, guys.